Halo, witajcie, dzień dobry, cześć. Zapraszamy Was na lekcję języka angielskiego, którą poprowadzi dla Was pan profesor Doksa. Witamy serdecznie. Co dzisiaj tematem lekcji?
Dzień dobry. Dzisiaj na lekcji będziemy rozmawiać o imprezie sportowej.
Coś więcej zdradzi Pan?
Tak, będziemy mówić o tym, co dzieje się na takiej imprezie sportowej i jak to po angielsku opowiedzieć lub opisać.
Zatem szykuje się ciekawa lekcja.
Good afternoon. So, as I said before, today we are going to talk about a sport event. We are going to talk about a visit to a sport event and how we can talk about this, how we can describe this. This may be useful on your Matura exam next year because you may be asked during the oral exam to talk about a sport event that you have attended, or maybe you will have to write a short letter in which you will describe a sport event that you have attended, or maybe you are going to have to plan and organize a sport event and discuss how to do it. So that's why we are going to talk about it today. So at a sport event, na imprezie sportowej. So first of all, I think it is good to take a look at what types of sport events there are. Of course, there are many types of sport events, but some are more common or more popular than others. So first of all, a match. Well, a match, the Polish name is very similar, match. So you can have a football match, you can have any other match. In English, matches in team disciplines like in football or in basketball or in volleyball or handball, they are usually also called a game. Yeah? So you can have either of these two names, a match or a game. Another type of sport event is a tournament. Tournament, well, it may be an event which is for individual players or contestants, or it could be a tournament of some teams. Czyli po polsku po prostu turniej. You can have, for example, a tennis tournament. Yes, in tennis we have games, but also tournaments. In athletics, when there is an athletics event, it is usually called a meet, czyli po polsku meeting lekkoatletyczny, an athletics meet. In the sports where competitors have to show who is the fastest, such events are usually called a race. A race in English can mean two things. One is wyścig, so it could be some kind of motor racing. For example, speedway is a type of racing, but a race could also be in running. For example, we say 100-meter race, czyli bieg, wyścig bądź bieg. It depends on the discipline. Of course, in boxing, we don't have games or meets. We usually say that there are tournaments, and in these tournaments we have individual fights, just like in Polish, a boxing fight, czyli walka bokserska. Another very common type of sport event is championships, czyli mistrzostwa. So this is an event in which the players compete who's going to be the best or which team is going to be the best. This is very popular name because you can see this in the proper name of some championships, the World Championships, the European Championships, the National Championships, and so on and so on. Another name for a tournament or a championships could be a cup, czyli po polsku puchar. So for example, in tennis, very often we have some kind of cups, but very often championships are simply called cup. The best example is the football championships, which is called the World Cup. Yes. So as you can see, it can mean puchar, but it can also mean mistrzostwa. All right. Now, sport events usually take place in some special locations. These special locations in English are called sport venues. What's a venue? Well, venue to jest po prostu miejsce odbywania się jakiejś imprezy, niekoniecznie sportowej. So, what kind of sport venues can we have? Again, there are many different sport venues because there are many different sport disciplines, but let's talk about the most common ones, the most popular ones. So first of all, a sport event can take place at a stadium. Stadium, czyli stadion. This is probably the most common sport venue. But especially in winter, sport events take place indoors, not outside, not outdoors, but indoors. And then, well, for example, they can take they can take place in a sports hall or sports arena, czyli hala sportowa, arena sportowa. Now, when you have some races, especially motor racing, they take place over a large area, and the cars or motorbikes, they usually move around a special track. This track is called race course, czyli tor wyścigowy, or racing track. It's just another name, race course or racing track, czyli tor wyścigowy. When you have football matches, they take place, of course, at a stadium, but inside this stadium, this green area covered with grass on which the footballers play is called football pitch, czyli boisko piłkarskie. So football matches are usually played on football pitches. Also, when you have athletics events, they take place at a special athletics stadium. And the very important, the basic element of the athletic stadium is the athletics track. So there is a track which goes around in which the athletes compete. They, well, usually run there. And inside you have the special field on which some events like javelin throw or hammer throw or discus throw or shot put, they are done. That's why athletics in English, especially in American English, very often is called track and field or track and field events. Track and field events, together it means simply athletics. Of course, when you have swimming or diving competition, this will take place at a swimming pool. When you have events where you skate, they usually take place at an ice rink or skating rink. There are two names in English for this. This means lodowisko. So ice hockey matches or figure skating competitions, they take place at a skating rink. Those who play golf, they play on a large green field and they just walk and compete from a hole to the next hole. And this place in English is called a golf course. So golf competition, golf tournament can take place on a golf course, czyli na polu golfowym. Tak to się nazywa golf course. To nie jest kurs golfa, chociaż teoretycznie mógłby być, ale jest to pole golfowe. All right, so now let's talk about the people who go to sport events not to compete but to watch. First of all, what do we call them? Well, the people who go to a live sport event to watch it are usually called the spectators. To są widzowie imprezy sportowej odbywającej się na żywo. Tak, to trzeba dokładnie sprecyzować. So they are called the spectators. It's different than the word viewers, też widzowie, but viewers are people who watch a sport event on TV, czyli po polsku byśmy powiedzieli, że to są telewidzowie. It's different than the audience because audience is usually are usually people who watch some cultural event live, so a concert or something like that. But the sport fans in the stadium watching it live, they're called spectators. Or they can also be called supporters, czyli kibice, especially if they go to a match and they support one of the teams, or they can be simply called fans. Now, the spectators, when they go to a live sport events, they don't just sit and watch. Very often they also do something as they engage in some kind of activities. So we could say, when we want, for example, to describe an event that we have attended in the past, we can say that the spectators cheered. Cheer, czyli wiwatować, dopingować, kibicować. Generally, you shout the words of encouragement for your team or for your favorite player, and so on and so on. Czyli cheer to jest kibicować, dopingować. Well, you could say that the spectators shouted. Cheering, it is usually a way of shouting. Of course, spectators can shout different things, words of encouragement, so positive things, so come on, go on, don't give up, and so on and so on. But sometimes, unfortunately, they can also shout unpleasant, impolite things at the opposing team or the other competitors, not the ones that you support. When the supporters come to the stadium, they first of all take their seats. So we could say the supporters or the spectators took their seats, czyli zajęli miejsca. Sometimes, unfortunately, it happens that the fans, supporters of the opposing teams get into some kind of conflict and they start a fight. Well, it happens, not very nice thing, but that's the reality. Czyli zacząć, to może być zacząć kłótnię, ponieważ fight to może być kłótnia, but of course it can also mean just physical fighting. When you like the play or the performance of the competitors, czyli zawodników, you usually cheer. But when you don't like what they are doing, for example, they are playing badly, or the opposing team is playing too good for you, or something controversial happened. For example, there was a foul play. The spectators usually boo the players, and believe it or not, to boo is actually a word, it's a verb. To boo somebody, to jest kogoś wybuczeć. Tak? So very often the spectators also boo somebody, and in the past you could say that the spectators booed the players. When there is a fight, first the spectators start to boo, or maybe first they start to boo, then they can start a fight, and unfortunately they can also start throwing things at each other, at the football pitch, at the track, at the arena. So yeah, again, this happens. Very often when the competition is of national importance, so for example, it is an international match, or the match is like the National Cup, or the final of the top national league, at the beginning of the game, of the match, of the competition, there is a moment where everybody, so I mean spectators, but also competitors and the officials, they stand up and they sing a very special song, which every nation has. This song is called the national anthem, czyli hymn narodowy. So at the beginning, you could say, for example, that you attended the sport event where at the beginning everybody stood up and sang the national anthem, czyli wszyscy wstali i zaśpiewali hymn narodowy. Especially in football matches, one of the very popular forms of entertainment for the fans is making a wave. So you know everybody just stands up, puts their hands in the air, and they do it one by one. In this way, creating a kind of wave of spectators that seems to be just moving around the stadium, the stands. All right, now let's take a look at the sport action. So what the sports people, the athletes, the competitors are actually doing. Well, when there is a match, for example, there are two teams. One team or the other team, they always want to win, which also you can say they want to beat the opponent. Beat po angielsku oznacza bić, pobić, ale w sporcie generalnie oznacza pokonać. So you want to beat the opponent, czyli pokonać przeciwnika. You could also say defeat the opponent. These two words in this context mean the same. Yeah? So you beat the opponent, czyli pokonujemy przeciwnika. You defeat the opponent. It means the same. In some games you can score a goal, czyli goal, or you can score a point, czyli score a goal, zdobyć bramkę, strzelić bramkę, score a point, zdobyć punkty. Of course, you can win the match, but you can also lose the match. Now, at the beginning, for example, of some races, motor racing, for example, competition, all the competitors have, the same, let's say, position in the race. But then after some time, not everybody, somebody always takes the lead. Take the lead means objąć prowadzenie. So especially in racing, but also in other games where there is some kind of score or when time is measured, you can always say that some competitor took the lead, czyli objął prowadzenie. You can, at the end of the competition, you can win, so then we say that you took the first place, take the first place, czyli zająć pierwsze miejsce, but you can also take the second place, you can take the third place, and so on. Czyli generalnie zająć miejsce, używamy tu czasownika take. Take the first place, take the second place. If you take one of the top three places, so the first, the second, or the third place, you usually win a medal. Win a medal, czyli zdobyć medal. There is an interesting word in English, which in Polish, we don't have one word for it, actually. We have to describe it. The runner-up. Who is the runner-up in a competition? Well, the runner-up is the guy who takes the second place. Czyli po polsku, opisowo, zdobywca drugiego miejsca. In English, it has a name. This person is called the runner-up. Now, what other types of sport action happen on the field or generally in a sport event? Well, different things happen, but for example, let's talk about these ones, which I believe are more popular. When you play, for example, a football match and you are injured or you're not playing very well or you have got a red card, you can be sent off. To be sent off, zostać zdjętym z boiska, zostać wyrzuconym z boiska. So this happens. This player was playing badly and he was sent off. To be injured, you know what it means, yes? When some violent physical action happens, you can have some kind of health problem and then we say that you're injured, czyli po polsku doznać kontuzji, so the player was injured. Now, when one player is injured and he or she is sent off the field or the pitch, then, or when the player is playing badly, then the coach or team manager usually makes a substitution. Substitution, which means you exchange one player with another player, czyli dokonać zmiany. So you make a substitution. In some sports, you can do this, for example, in football or handball or basketball or, in most of the team sports. Now, when there is a competition, for example, a match, a very important thing, probably the most important thing, is the final score, the final result. Well, of course, as we said before, one team can win, another team can lose, one team can beat the other team, but sometimes there is neither a winner nor a loser in the game. So For example, when the score is, let's say in basketball, 96-96. Well, but in basketball, I guess then you have an extra time, additional time. But let's say in football, for example, very often one team has, for example, 2 goals, the other team has also 2 goals. Then what's the score? In English we say it's a draw or it's a tie, czyli remis. There are 2 names in English for that. So you can either say a draw or a tie. Now in races, all kinds of races, how long do the competitors race? How long do they compete? Well, they do it until they cross the finishing line. Cross the finishing line, czyli pokonać linię mety, przekroczyć linię mety. Sometimes when you do something that is forbidden as a player, for example, you take drugs, or you have foul play, or you do something else which is not allowed, you can be disqualified. Disqualified, czyli zdyskwalifikowany. All right, let's talk about the athletes. Basically, the athletes in English can mean 2 things. First of all, it's lekkoatleci. Remember, in English, we don't use this word lekko, the word that we use in Polish, lekka atletyka, lekko atleta. In English, you don't use this word. There is no light athletics or light athlete. No, there's just no word light. We just say athletes, athletics. But you have to remember that an athlete in English can also mean simply a sports person, czyli sportowiec. Now, there are many different names for people who compete in sport. Of course, you can always call them players, those who play something, because not all of sports people play. Generally, you can call all of them competitors. Compete, rywalizować, competitors, zawodnicy, którzy, rywalizujący, and so on and so on. And a very similar word to competitors is the word contestants. Contestants to też są zawodnicy, uczestnicy, zwłaszcza w jakichś turniejach lub też w konkursach, też niekoniecznie sportowych. Możemy używać słowa contestants. Of course, the guy who wins is the winner. The person who takes the second place is called the runner-up. The person who scores points or scores goals is called the scorer, czyli zdobywca punktów lub zdobywca bramki. And of course, in team sports you have teams, so there is usually one team that somebody supports, and then there is the other team, which we usually call the opposing team, czyli drużyna przeciwna. Now, in sport, there are also some other people involved. People who have some official role. So they don't support any of the competitors, or they don't support any of the teams. They are there to organize the event and also to decide who's the winner, but also to decide and to check that all the rules of the competition are followed. So, first of all, we have the judges. Judges, czyli sędziowie. In English, there are at least 3 names for sędzia. The judges are usually those people who, for example, give points for some performance, and it's usually quite, I would say, subjective. For example, in figure skating, when there is some kind of competition and the figure skater has some, program and he or she performs the program, then the judges give their subjective, let's say, evaluation of this performance, so they give points for this. Czyli judges to są głównie tacy sędziowie właśnie punktowi, którzy oceniają, przyznają punkty, ewentualnie czuwają, żeby wszystko było prawidłowe. Then you have the referee, probably the most popular name in English. Referee is somebody like the guy in football who runs the match, czyli jest to taki sędzia, najczęściej właśnie w jakichś meczach z drużyn sportowych, ale niekoniecznie. To jest chyba taka najpopularniejsza właśnie nazwa, referee. In some sports, especially the sports which have their origins in Great Britain, the referee is called the umpire. The umpire is, for example, in baseball. You can have it in cricket. I guess there's an umpire in tennis too. So these games originated in Great Britain and they have the special name for it. A coach. Well, the coach is the guy who every day has training sessions with the players to make them better, czyli po prostu trener. The team manager is the guy who runs the team, makes the decisions how the team will, how and when and where they will do some things such as, practice, matches, visits and so on and so on, czyli po prostu kierownik drużyny. And you have people which are generally called the officials, czyli generalnie przedstawiciele, oficjele, wszystkie te osoby, które są formalnie związane z organizacją zawodów. Okay, now when we talk about sport events, we also say, we want to say that the events take place, czyli mają miejsce, odbywają się. So we use the two expressions. We can say that the sport event took place, czyli odbył się, miał miejsce, or it was held. Też odbył się, miał miejsce, był zorganizowany. Często do organizacji imprez właśnie używa się tutaj takiego czasownika hold. So it was held at, I don't know, Moto Arena Speedway Stadium in Torun, for example. Sometimes sport events can be postponed. What does it mean? Well, postponed means that it will not take place on this original date, but it will take place later. Czyli postponed znaczy przełożony. Sometimes, not very often, the games are cancelled, which means the game doesn't happen or the event doesn't happen and it will not happen in the future. It was just cancelled. Like now, because of the coronavirus pandemics, a lot of sport events have been cancelled, czyli odwołanych. When you describe a sport event, you can say how long it lasted. Trwać. So it lasted 3 hours. Sometimes, for example, in ice hockey or in football, you have at the end of the match to decide who's the winner, you have the penalty shootout. Penalty shootout, czyli rzuty karne, or you just call them penalties. Yes, it's very interesting phenomenon. There was additional time or extra time, czyli była dogrywka. In some games you can also have additional time or extra time to decide who is the winner, because in these disciplines you don't have a tie. For example, in basketball, I think there is no tie possible. You just have to play additional time to see who the winner is. Okay, thank you very much. I guess this vocabulary that we have discussed today will help you to talk about a sport event that you have attended or that you are planning to attend, or maybe to write about it in a letter during your Matura exam, but also in your life. That's all for now. Thank you very much, and see you after the break.